What is going on The Flash? Last night was crazy. Last night was a great episode of The Flash Season 8. This was episode 2, which was also part 2 of Armageddon, the big crossover event that's happening right now. If you haven't watched the episode yet, go watch it first and then come to this video because I am talking full spoilers. Right off the bat, we have Despero telling The Flash that the reason that he's the cause of this Armageddon is because he snaps like the next day. So it picks up right at the end of the last episode where they were talking to each other. And so from that point, Despero's saying the following day is when the Flash is going to lose it for some reason. And we're wondering, okay, we'll see what happens. We're not really sure if it's going to happen. And, you know, everybody else is kind of questioning it on Team Flash. They're wondering, well, is it going to happen? But as the day goes on, crazier and crazier things keep happening. And it makes you think, oh, it's really going to happen. He's going to snap. And by the end of this episode, it makes you think that he has. But again, I'll get into that with theories because I have a feeling that there's more to the story. So the villain of this episode is this psychic meta named Zotar. And at first, Barry and Team Flash assume that this is the reason why the Flash may snap in the future, because her ability is that she messes with people's minds. So her first crime is robbing this bank early in the episode. You see that she's whammied a security guard, the word they used to use back in the day. And as Barry's walking to the scene as Barry Allen CSI, Kramer comes and stops him and says that he's suspended because there's an investigation going on and they believe that he was working with Carver. He was his second man on the inside, which we know is not true, but obviously something else going on here. So Barry's suspended. So that's the first big thing that could push him over the edge. The second big thing that possibly leads to Barry losing it is Star Labs being shut down entirely. Apparently their sensors weren't working and the radiation just got so bad that this other government entity had to come in and shut the whole thing down. They had to scrap everything. Barry had to dismantle Gideon. Gideon self-destructed. It was a really sad moment. But that's how serious this is getting. Part 1 I thought was cool, but part 2 I think is where things are really getting serious. And then the third moment that kind of hints at Barry possibly losing it is that he finally finds Zotar robbing another bank and he tries to stop her. And now this part was kind of stupid because he was already warned about this whole psychic thing. He knows that Despero is waiting for him to snap. But he decides to run at this woman full force, no protection whatsoever, and then of course he gets whammied. Next thing you know, as he's running towards her, it cuts, and now he's in his apartment, and Caitlin, Allegra, and Chester are looking at him crazy like, bro, what are you doing? You just attacked us. And he's like, I don't remember doing that at all. So at first you think, okay, well maybe it's just that he got whammied, and that's why he's doing all this stuff. Maybe it's not actually him going crazy. But then again, by the end of the episode, it gets worse. And the last big thing that happens that kind of hints at Barry fully losing it is after they beat Zotar, he comes back to Chester's garage where their temporary base is. And as they're talking about beating Zotar and stuff and trying to figure out what's happening, he talks about going to Joe's place and having him make them food. And then everybody looks at him crazy like, what are you talking about, Barry? That's not funny. And he's like, no, what's going on? And they tell him that Joe has been dead for 6 months. Now, they were hinting at it in the last episode. Even my mom picked up on it. There were small hints as people were talking to Cecile and stuff and talking about loss, that you could tell something bad happened to Joe. But I did not expect it to be him being dead, because he hasn't been in this episode, he hasn't been in this crossover the whole time. So it's this really weird psychological thing where Barry's just like, what is going on? So he speeds over to Cecile's place to try and find Joe, and everybody confronts him. Cecile and Iris are like, he died 6 months ago. You gave the eulogy. And the thing is, he's like, I don't remember doing that. I don't remember this. This can't be real. He's denying it. And then on the news, it turns out after he defeated Zotar, he attacked the city with lightning. Now, we did see earlier in the episode, when he was about to be defeated by Zotar, she had him, up in the air, because apparently she also has telekinesis. And she had him, restrained, and then he vibrated the cells in his body to create lightning to, stop her. But in that case, the lightning, exploded everywhere. And at the time, it didn't look like there was people around. But I kind of thought, well, that is kind of reckless, because if there were people around during that, then they would have gotten hurt. But it turns out people did get hurt anyway, because after that, he allegedly went around shooting lightning at people and causing a whole thing. Now, nobody died, but people definitely got hurt. So between that and Joe being dead, Barry is really going through it, and we don't know what is going on, but this just caught me way off guard. This episode was so well done. It had this very psychological aspect to it. You wonder, is Barry actually snapping? And Despero is watching him throughout this episode, but not physically, he's in his mind, and you see a projection of him following Barry around, watching him on the sidelines, waiting for that moment. And he's pretty convinced now that Barry's about to snap, so he's about to take him out. Now, things that we learn in this episode, we get backstory information for both Chester and Despero. Despero, which I predicted, had ulterior motives. Like, he had a reason for why he was doing this. Something happened to him. So apparently on his planet, there was a coup because there was a corrupt leader, and Despero had the chance to take down this leader, but he showed him mercy. Because he showed this guy mercy, that guy came back attacking 10 times worse than before and ended up banishing Despero to Earth, where he's living now. And as he came to Earth, he saw that Barry wrecked it. So that's why he came back in time to try and stop him from doing all this. So it all makes sense. And it kind of goes back to what I was talking about in the last video and with part 1, is that to me, Despero doesn't seem like 100% a villain. I think he has weird motives in a way, yes, but I think part of what he's doing is because he thinks it's right and because there's a reason, right? And that reason now we know is because something bad happened to his planet and he doesn't want the same thing to happen on Earth. So I am interested in seeing where that goes, and I do think there's going to be another villain in the mix. I still think so. And the second big thing we learned in this episode is why Chester is a pacifist. He tells a story about how he saw a ray gun on Looney Tunes, Marvin the Martian's ray gun. He tried to make his own, and by doing that, he burned down his friend's parents' house. And from that moment, he decided he was going to be a pacifist. That plays into the story where Frost asked him to make a weapon to use against Despero, which also I noticed it was a radiation gun he was making. So I'm wondering if he disabled those sensors and stuff because of what he was working on. He didn't want other people to know about it. And by doing that, then it kind of doomed Star Labs. They kind of hinted at it because you saw it on the board, but they didn't really confirm it. Then maybe we'll talk about it in future parts of this crossover. But that's what I'm getting here. That's like the vibe I'm getting. That's what they seem to be hinting at, is that his work on this radiation gun may have been the reason why Star Labs got shut down. But we'll find out. And now theories. I think one, there may be some wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff happening right now, and that's why Barry doesn't remember all this stuff about Joe. I mean, maybe he's the one that changed the timeline, or maybe somebody else changed the timeline, which is my second theory, is that, again, Despero is not the main villain, that there's somebody else pulling the strings in the background, someone that's purposely sabotaging Barry Allen's life to drive him over the edge to then cause all this chaos. It makes the most sense to me because, again, Despero doesn't seem like the person trying to do that. It wouldn't make sense for him to be manipulating Barry, but then also trying to stop him. To me, it seems like he's not the real villain, that he was kind of a red herring villain, and that there's somebody else working behind the scenes. And we also see at the end that Barry's teaming up with Black Lightning next, and the rest of the Justice Friends. I forgot what their superhero name, and maybe Super Friends? I don't remember what they're called. They're not the Justice League, I don't think. But we're going to see more of them, and I'm guessing they're going to help him try and figure out what's really going on. And I think this is going to be one of the best crossovers so far. Like, the first episode I thought was okay. It was cool. But this one, I think, really sold me. Like, okay, I'm ready to see where this goes. So, what did you think of Armageddon Part 2, The Flash Season 8, Episode 2? Let me know down in the comments. Also, don't forget to like this video, share it, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next one.